Good day, young mathematicians out there. I am Teacher MatHusay. Welcome to my math tutorials. Today, I will be discussing how to factor perfect square trinomials. But before that, how do we identify whether a trinomial is a perfect square or not? Which of the following is a perfect square trinomial? Is it 4x squared minus 5xy plus y squared? Is it 9x squared minus 12xy plus 4y squared? Or is it 4x squared minus 16xy minus 16y squared? Or x squared minus 5xy plus 25y squared? To answer this question, let me first discuss the characteristics of a perfect square trinomial. From the word itself, it has three terms, in which the first and third terms are perfect squares, such as 4x squared, 49a to the fourth b squared, or 25x raised to 6. Whereas the second term is positive or negative, the product of twice the square root of the first term and the square root of the third term. Now let's go back to the question. Which of the following is a perfect square trinomial? Very good. It's 9x squared minus 12xy plus 4y squared. Since 9x squared minus 12xy plus 4y squared is a perfect square trinomial, the question is, how are we going to express it in factored form? Note that the factored form of any perfect square trinomial is the square of a binomial a plus or minus b, where a is the principal root of the first term and b is the principal root of the third term. Positive or negative will be dependent upon the sign of the second term. For instance, in the given example, the first term is 9x squared and the third term is 4y squared. Taking the square root of the first and the third terms will lead us to 3x and 2y. Thus, our factored form is 3x minus 2y raised to 2. Minus, it's because the second term is negative 12xy. Now let's take a look at these examples. First, 16x to the fourth plus 24x squared y plus 9y squared. Note that the first term is 16x to the fourth and the third term is 9y squared. Taking the square roots of the first and the third terms will lead us to 4x squared and 3y. And since the second term is positive, therefore, our factored form is the square of the quantity 4x squared plus 3y. How about the second example? 25m raised to 6 minus 20m cubed n squared plus 4n to the fourth. The first term is 25m raised to 6 and the third term is 4n raised to 4. Taking the square roots of the first and the third terms will give us 5m cubed and 2n squared. And since the sign of the second term is negative, therefore, our factored form is the square of the quantity 5m cubed minus 2n squared. Now, let's analyze together another example. Factor completely 3a squared plus 18ab squared plus 27b raised to 4. Note that the first and the third terms are not perfect squares. But if we are to observe, 3, 18, and 27 are all divisible by 3. Thus, factoring it out will give us 3 as the greatest common factor, and the other factor is a squared plus 6ab squared plus 9b raised to 4. And the second factor is a perfect square trinomial, thus giving us the factor 3, times the quantity a plus 3b squared raised to 2. Is everything clear so far? Feel free to ask questions and/or clarifications in the comment section below. To summarize today's discussion, first, perfect square trinomial is an algebraic expression with 3 terms, in which the first and third terms are perfect square, and the second term is positive or negative twice the product of the square roots of the first and third terms. Second, note that the factored form of any perfect square trinomial is always in the form of the square of a plus or minus b, where a and b are the principal square roots of the first and third terms, and the middle sign is copied from the sign of the second term. And lastly, if there exists a greatest common factor or GCF, you need to factor it out first. Thank you for joining me in today's discussion.